Hi, this is my daughter Alexis. We're going to briefly discuss about our experiences with the Forest Hill School District here in the greater Grand Rapids uh, area of West Michigan. And this is a school district that's been given tons of praise, very highly accredited, and I truly dispute all of that. But be that as it may, we're going to show you what some classic examples of bias in the classroom are. So one of the first things is my daughter happened to mention to me that on Mondays, the Pledge of Allegiance is, after it's said in English, it's uttered in Spanish. And to the dismay of me, Alexis, briefly tell people what happens about the process and what happens if you don't adhere to it.
After we say the Pledge of Allegiance in English, we have to say it in Spanish, standing up with our hand over our heart.
So you have to take a vow to say it just as you're doing it in English.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to say it in Spanish. What happens if you don't abide by that?
There's a high chance of getting a responsibility form.
And what's that?
And that's when you get written up. And it basically says, it's basically a piece of paper, and it says what you did wrong, and it's on your record for that quarter of the year.
Oh, so you're getting written up because if you object to saying the Pledge of Allegiance in a language other than English. Is that correct?
A very dirty look, yes.
Oh, that's excellent. Way to go. All right. And after Daddy, your father went to the principal and said you're not going to be saying it in Spanish under no circumstances, the principal reluctantly agreed. But the irony is even more hysterical, that the other kids are still saying it, and that it's still being said to this very day, is it not?
Yes, but you don't have to stand up, but the fact they're still saying it is ridiculous.
Well, not only that, I can assure you that if the other people were not saying it in Spanish, it would have been dropped. And the point that your father brought up, do you remember what Daddy brought up to the principal, what I told you?
That we're Lebanese, and the fact that if you can say it in Spanish, that you should be able to say it in Arabic without any problems.
Right, because in fact, Michigan has more Arabs, in case other people are not aware, Michigan has more Arabs than any other state in the U.S.
Way more than Hispanic.
And yes, locally. I mean, within Michigan. And so what I want the people to understand is that it had nothing to do with the Hispanic people. It had more to do with the fact that you're going to pander to one segment and not all. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay. Next, you tell us about Mr. Johnson's remarks about Governor Snyder.
Mr. Johnson mentioned to us in social studies one day, he said, it's not fair that Governor Snyder makes the laws without letting the people decide. And I think that's very dumb because it's democracy. It's when...
Wait, hold on. Back up. You knew better than that. Well, first off, for anyone that's listening out there, this pertained to the 2010 elections and the fact that Governor Snyder happens to be a Republican who was elected, and Alexis's teacher happened to mention his resentment, the fact that he was not consulted and other people were not consulted because Governor Snyder apparently instituted some laws that he felt was in the best interest of the people of Michigan. And so he complained, essentially. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then you have, what did Mrs. Runquist ask you about the presidential election a little while ago?
She asked us when I was in 4th grade, this was 2 years ago.
Okay, what did she ask you?
She said, whose parents voted for Obama? And maybe 3 or 4 hands didn't go up.
So the vast majority of the kids raised their hands to affirm to her that their parents had supported President Obama.
And that made me upset because...
Why were you upset about that?
Because it's none of her business, because when you vote, there are booths that keep it to be private. So
you're saying she had no business to ask you or anybody else whose parents...
That's like a camera peeping down and looking at what... It's like a camera is coming down and looking at what you're filling in.
Good point. Okay, and then you could briefly tell us also about the orangutan and the palm oil, the orangutan story, And by the way, the orangutan and the American Palm Oil Council, and by the way, just as a footnote ahead of time, the Girl Scouts rely heavily on the palm oil tree.
If you like Thin Mints.
She says that because she knows her father's favorite cookies are the
Thin Mints.
Thin Mints. Okay, so Alexis, briefly tell us, what class was this?
Language arts.
Language arts is also the equivalent of what?
English, grammar, spelling, punctuation.
And so tell us about the video you watched.
We watched a video and it was saying how it did create 20 million jobs.
And what is it?
Harvesting the palm oil trees.
And what was the name of the video? Do you remember, or for what word?
It was on Discovery Education.
Just through Discovery Education. So for your English class, your teacher had you watch a video on the American Palm Oil Council's harvesting of palm oil trees.
Yes.
And then what did your teacher have you do afterwards?
We had to write a paper saying how we're so upset, and he told us what to write. He said...
The teacher actually told you what to say?
Yes. He said, it creates 20 million jobs, but if one orangutan dies, it's not worth it.
Really? Okay, so then tell us, ultimately, then after you were to get your grade, what was he going to do with the papers?
Send them off to the American Palm Oil Council.
So
48 letters to be exact.
So between both of your classes, yours and Mr. Schoonbeck's, they have these classes, what they call teams.
Where they pair 2 or 3 teachers up.
Right. So all of these were going to be sent all to the American Palm Oil Council, and essentially to say, how dare you do it? And in Alexis's letter that her teacher gave her the thumbs up, essentially.
Said, I have great voice. Part of our grade, he gave us a checklist on what he expected from the letter.
So he actually told you what he wanted out of it.
Yes, and he said, in the checklist, does the writer have voice?
So he went through the checklist, and he essentially gave you a thumbs up after you wrote.
He said, good voice, because I was writing how even rocks could be angry at this.
Yes. So his motives were crystal clear. So, okay, in conclusion, we would like to thank you very much for listening, and that's our experience with bias in the Forest Hills Public School District. Thank you.